Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Get Up 10. We are inching towards the finish line of 2023, but don't worry, I still have some really amazing episodes for you guys, and I already have my content for 2024 locked, loaded, and ready to go, and it's going to be such an awesome way to start off the new year, so definitely get ready for that. But today's guest is a very special. I'm really excited to share his episode. And earlier today, I was reading through the book of First Timothy, and I came across one of my favorite verses that says, "Let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, in purity." And that's First Timothy 4:12. And I just love how time and time again in the Bible we see examples of young people doing bold things. And I think that today's guest is no exception to that. So today's guest is Mo Speaks, a speaker, entrepreneur, former collegiate athlete, and believer. He works with young athletes to find a balance of life and uses his faith to have an impact over influence for the young athletes that he meets. He has a lot of great things popping off. He's getting ready to launch a podcast. He has some really dope merch, hoodies, shirts, you name it. And so I'm definitely going to include how to connect with him in the show notes, as well as how to purchase your copy of my new book, Thrive. So without further ado, let's get into it with Mo Speaks. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Get Up 10. I'm here with Mo Speaks. How are
What
you
up? What up? What
today?
up?
I'm super excited to get into our conversation. I think you are probably like the youngest guest I've ever had on my podcast, but I think that's awesome because I really am big on like wisdom and
Mhm.
like a sound word has no age limit. Like you can learn from a baby and you can definitely learn from somebody with decades of life experience. So I'm happy to just continue to have like a diverse uh guests. I guess that's the word. Diverse guests on my show. So welcome, welcome. How are
Thank you.
you
Thank you for
today? How
having me.
has your morning been? Because it is the morning still.
Yes, it's been great. I went out for my run this morning. I had to just get up. I just felt like, going out for a run and a little walk, just kind of enjoying nature before this podcast and just, getting my day started. So it's been really great.
That's
How about you?
good. How, well, I was gonna ask you like, how long was your run? Because I'm just curious.
Okay, so like my run was like probably about like 15 minutes, but like it was
Okay.
actually like I couldn't stop. I did a little bit of content. I just filmed a little bit, but but yeah, it was like around like 15 minutes. It was just around my campus. I have a like really small campus. So just run around there and then just get back to my dorm.
That's cool. Okay. I was like, did you like go run a few miles or
Oh,
like I'm always curious because
yeah.
I'm not a long distance kind of girl. Like I can do it, but it's just not my preference.
I can do it on a treadmill. I can do it on a treadmill. I can't do it
Oh,
outside.
no. That makes it even worse. I would rather be outside running miles than on the tread. Like
Yeah.
the tread, I just need some new scenery and yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
anyways, my morning was cool. I did the same. I woke up and got my workout in and released a new episode. I released the second part of my conversation with Princess around grief and loss this morning.
Yes,
So
I saw
that was
that.
dope. Yeah, that was a dope conversation for sure. Because I feel like I just love Princess spirit, and then just to hear more of her story, and it just makes it even more amazing. Like, wow, like you've been through all that, but you're still like such an amazing person and such a light. It's like amazing. But yeah, okay. So today was a strength day at the gym, and it was good. We got it done.
Yeah, it's one of those days. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're too familiar with Get Up 10 or not, but I'll give you a little spiel. So basically, I created Get Up 10 just to really encourage resilience and authenticity. That's a short version of why Get Up 10 exists. So, with that being said, how has life knocked you down?
Um, Life has knocked me down a couple times. Actually, I think my first experience was kind of like in high school. I have an athletic background, so I played football basically in high school going into college. And one of my closest coaches at the time got thyroid cancer, and he passed away. Before my season, or actually in the middle of my senior season, and it kind of just felt like everything that that was going for me in life kind of just like shut down for a second, and it felt like I had a lot of resentment towards him, and I had a lot of I kind of distanced myself away from him kind of towards the end, and I kind of regret that looking back on it and looking back on a young man who I was, kind of just being very young, but then also just think about like life is short, and you can't take things for granted. You can't hold grudges towards people. I think that was one of the most important things, and he taught me a lot. He's the reason why I'm at my college today, actually, because he went to the same college. I found out after that season, so it was really good to always have a piece of him in my heart. And then, of course, college. uh, Second time was in college. I think I was going through a really bad breakup, and I was in a really bad toxic relationship. I know we both know about those, but so I went through that, and then just kind of just overcoming that. Being in a college atmosphere, it's very easy to get in that spiral. And I was spinning for a good month and a half, and then finally just kind of like grounded myself and pulled myself out of the hole, and just kind of went forward and moved forward with God, and then allow myself to become who I am.
Those are all definitely pivotal moments. Wait, so that was your high school coach that passed away?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So did you have him for like all four
yeah.
years?
It was crazy. I met him when I was in junior high because he came down to the junior high to just come watch our practices and stuff. And then going into my freshman year, he said, "Okay, you're going to be on varsity." As a freshman in Texas, that's pretty that's pretty like that's good. But you're going to be
Yeah.
varsity, and then I didn't play a lot. He was just kind of just preparing me for the role that I was going to step into eventually. But then yeah, so he passed away my senior year. He got sick. Actually, my sophomore year, he beat it, and then it came back again, and then he got sick again, and then that was the last time I was able to see him my senior year.
That's tough.
Yeah,
So, okay, as I'm like listening to you, I have like several thoughts. In the end, do you think that you like distance yourself to avoid like the pain of the reality?
yeah. So in sports, I think it was that, and just kind of so in sports, especially like when you get moved to a different position, because I was at a linebacker position, and then they moved me down to like a D line position, and I kind of felt like disrespected in a sense, like why are you guys moving me or things like that. Which actually it worked out because I played really good at that position. But it was kind of just like seeing that, and I was like, okay, I'm not. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to, you're my coach, but I just don't want to be, in your presence. And then during that time, I didn't really think about, what is he actually going through? He's just more than a coach. He's more than just, somebody who, tells me what to do on the field. He taught me life lessons, even after he passed away, he's still teaching me life lessons. So I think that's very important. As athletes, don't have resentment, towards your coach if they move you to a different position. If they tell you, do this because they see something more than what you can see. And I think that's very vital, and it's very important as well.
Yeah. I'm thinking about my own journey with coaches, and I actually talk about this in my book because it was such a ride. And I'm like reflecting back. There we go. Oh, my words are always like they come out of my mouth faster than like my head can process half the time. But anyways, I'm thinking back on like my high school coaches, and I'm like, when I think about the coaches who had the most impact on me, like it was definitely my AAU coach from high
Mm.
school, and then like the coaches throughout college taught me a lot of lessons for better or worse, honestly. So I talk about that in my book. But my actual like school coaches,
I know like for soccer, my coach was also like the gym teacher. And so
Oh, yeah,
it's kind of a
yeah,
thing. Like she definitely had like favoritism towards like the girls that played on her team. She used to
yeah.
keep candy in her office and she was just like a very like tough woman, but she was a good woman. And then like for basketball, my track coach ended up coaching us because they didn't have anybody else to like coach girls basketball, and he knew
Oh,
like how important basketball was like to me and like a few of the other girls, and he didn't want us to just like not have a team. So he stepped in. And that being said, like we didn't even have enough girls to like that were like serious, because I went to a really small school, so people just like played so that we had a team pretty much. So
I
it was an
guess.
interesting experience, but like I think because I was surrounded by like good people with good intentions, like that made for a good experience. And my coach was always very encouraging of me, so I
That's
can
good.
say that about him. But the college coaches was like a whole nother story. Like,
I,
yeah,
I got some
but
stories for college, definitely.
yeah. I'm not gonna say too much because I'm gonna just say by the book. But
Next
anyways,
for the next
yeah,
podcast.
yeah. um, I don't think that people always are aware, because I feel like we have similar perspectives as we have experienced like the student athlete life, but like
Mhm.
to people on the outside looking in, or to somebody who's thinking of being in a position of leadership as a coach, like I don't think that they always realize how big your impact as a coach can be on your players. Like
Yeah,
it could be a very like, I don't want to say intimate, but like it could be a close relationship, like something that will last for like years to come.
yeah.
So unfortunately, like you didn't get that experience, but to your coach's credit, like you said, you're still like learning from his legacy to this day. So that's
Mhm.
awesome. All right. And then we're gonna shift to the breakup a little bit. Cause I also went through a really rough breakup in college that really like, I feel like I wouldn't be the woman that I am today if not for that breakup. So how did that breakup impact you?
Oh man, that was that was definitely a time in my life. So I'll backtrack, just give you a little like background. So we dated in my sophomore year in high school, and all the way up to like my sophomore year in college. And it was kind of like we got to college like a little bit off and on. But I didn't really know what God was about to do in my life at that point because I was catering to her. I was very much of like, hey, like anything you need, I got you. Being very loyal and being very like transparent about, who I am, but also just giving everything I got to her. And that was kind of like, I think the worst thing I could have done because I didn't give to myself. I didn't give, back to myself in the relationship. So moving forward, we get to, I want to say it's my sophomore year, uh, find out she's cheating on me or she cheated on me. And I was kind of just like, wow, like I didn't expect this to happen. Cause when you think about somebody being with somebody for that long, you think you're either your bond or, the respect or, just the level of y'all's relationship will be somewhere, up high to where that won't happen. But I think it was just God just taking me and said, you know what, look, I have something for you, and she can't be a part of it. And knowing that now, kind of looking back on it, it's like, man, like that's the reason why I had to go through all that because out of that came the Momo Mondays. Out of that came Mo Speaks. Out of that came, this ambitious type of guy wanting to pursue his life and live his life to the fullest but then also, just trying to, better his life because he didn't get the chance to do that with her. But it was very hard. I think the first couple months, I was just kind of, like I said, I'm in a college environment. So, when you think about you're in a college environment, there's everybody, is trying to do everything. Everybody's trying to, experience college for themselves. But I was just all over the place. I was partying, going through, the party phase, going through the drinking phase and just doing all that. And it's like, bro, like I really need to get myself together because, eventually this is not going to be it. There has to be something else to fill the void. And I was trying to fill that void with partying and drinking, just being around people that I shouldn't be around. And eventually I had to look myself in the mirror. I remember specifically it was one night, or not one night, it was one day. I was walking I was walking to the calf and, to go get some food. And my homeboy, he's like, hey, let's meet up. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm walking there and I can just feel the weight of my body. I can feel the weight of the world just on me. And, every step I take is like, it's getting deeper and deeper. And I was about to break down in the calf. So I literally had to get my food. I say, no, I gotta go do some homework or something. Go back into my dorm. Go back to my dorm. And you know how you feel like, you're about to cry, but you're trying to hold it in before, everything just breaks down. And it's a good walk from the calf to the dorm. It's like probably about a good 5-minute walk. So you're gonna see people along the way. Everybody saying what's up. And at this point, everybody knows who I am. So they're saying, "What's up, bro? You good?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm good." But I had a mask on my face walking back from the calf, and then when I got in my room, I kind of just unveiled that and had to let it go. And I literally remember sliding down my door and just breaking down because I was hurt so bad. And just when you really love somebody, you really feel very strongly about somebody, and that they break that breaks you mentally, physically, and spiritually. And it was got to the point where I couldn't even like get up because it's like, all right, I don't want to move. I don't want to, go out into the world to see me like this. But then also it's just like I know that if I do, and they're like, oh well, you're just that guy that that got cheated on, grow up, or man up, like as they'll say. But I don't think a lot of people think about especially on the guy side, like when you go through a breakup or anything like that, how much it impacts a guy because the guy's invested just like the girl's invested. If you think about it, or if the guy's truly invested in somebody. But to be able to get pull myself together and get up and knowing that okay, I told myself, look, it's gonna be me and God now for the rest of for a minute. It's just gonna be me and him. And knowing that at the time too, I really didn't have my faith that I have now, but I knew is that God was preparing me for something else on the other side of this kind of like rough patch in my life. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I can definitely relate to parts of that as well. I was not really like dating anybody serious in high school, but I started a serious relationship in the beginning of college. And in the back of my mind, I always told myself, like, all right, if we make it through all 4 years, like we should be good.
yeah,
So you did have all those years under your belt, and then it still like didn't go the distance. So I can imagine how painful that would be. And
yeah,
also, I'm happy that you brought up this topic of heartbreak because I feel like growing up for me, like throughout my youth, there was a lot of painful heartbreak. And I think a lot of young people deal with that. And
hmm
now that I'm like I don't want to say getting older, but now that the years are like passing by and I'm a lot more like my approach to relationships is a lot different now. Like I sometimes forget about that pain. And I think like for somebody like you and me who's like on a mission to like encourage and inspire other people, you have to do that from a place where you're able to like connect with people and pain is able to do that. Like you can relate to some connect with somebody because of a common shared pain.
yeah,
And so like in one way, it's nice to move forward and move on. But in another way, I'm like, wow, like I don't want to forget what I've been through because that's the key to me being able to reach somebody else.
yeah,
And speaking of which, yeah, like I know for me personally, like when my heart is broken, like I feel that thing in my stomach, in my throat. Like you really, like heartbreak, you really feel it.
yeah,
So yeah, it sucks, but I mean it happens and like I think in a perfect world, or like ideally, not even in a perfect world, like ideally, because it happens in the real world too. Ideally, you do what you did and what I've done, and you take your lessons and you like refine your approach so like all right, we're gonna do better next time.
yeah, yeah.
So, so that being said, how did you get back up? Like, how did you get back up from losing your coach? I mean, you kind of just talked a little bit about getting back up from that relationship, but I really like to just make it like um tangible and like clear to somebody who's listening. So if somebody is going through a tough loss, and like, let's talk to that young person that is like knows they have a bright future ahead of them in college with big things, but like right now they're struggling. Or even that person who is going through a heartbreak, like how do we get back up from that?
Yeah, so one thing I always had, and that I think it was kind of vital for me to have in my life was somebody to talk to. It was very, and I remember it's this guy named Sly, and he was kind of like our team youth pastor. He's a youth pastor now, but especially during my loss, when my coach passed away, he called me immediately, and he was in a parking lot with me, and just kind of taking that load off of me. So the advice I'll give to somebody, find somebody that you're able to, confine in, that knows what you're going through, but then also is able to take that load. I don't think, I don't think my parents really understood like what was really going on at the time with me. I don't think my brothers really understood that either, but he understood because I think he went through something like that, and I think he knows. Just spending time with him and actually letting him mentor me, that I was able to make that transition and get back up. And it was the same thing in the relationship. He kind of asked me even while we were in a relationship, he was like, "Hey, so what is y'all's relationship with God? Is God is y'all relationship?" And just kind of asking those type of questions. But then of course when we had the breakup, it was just like, I need somebody to talk to. He was like, "Look, like I understand what you're going through. I understand, what happened, but I'm here to help you, and I'm here to pick you up when you can't pick yourself up. I'm here to, carry that load." So I'll say just find somebody that you're able to, confine in. But then also another advice I'll give is find yourself. And I think in each point of those two shifts in my life, I was able to find a new version of who I was. Just because it's like that old version of me was kind of letting go, and the old version of me is kind of like being destroyed, and that new version of me is being built up over something new. So
I like that perspective of like discovering new versions of yourself. And I'm realizing as I'm listening to you, like probably not gonna have like a high schooler or like somebody freshman in college listening to this podcast necessarily. I mean, you
yeah.
never know. But I feel like for whoever is listening, like maybe we're speaking to the person who, like I mentioned before, is thinking about becoming a coach, or who is over
Yeah.
like a youth group, or just thinking about getting involved and pouring into the youth. I think it's good to hear this perspective.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to the breakup. um did when things was like going south, were you like accepting like yeah, we're done, like there's no going back, or was there still a little piece of you that's like, nah, we could fix this?
Yeah, so I was like, and it's kind of crazy because when they say like the time, you can't have no contact rule and all this stuff. Like we didn't talk, like we broke up in I think October, and then we didn't talk for like 2 months, and then because I'm in school, so I think that distance really helped out a lot. But when I went back home for the holidays, it was just like everything started to hit again. All these memories started to pop up. Just even me walking into my house, I realized like,
Yeah.
bro, like she was there like literally like 3 months ago, when I came home. So it was kind of just like, and I try to mend things out. I don't like having bad blood with people. That's like one of my things. Is just like I don't like to carry that. I don't like to think about that or have that energy because I don't want to receive that energy back towards me. So I was just like, okay, we gotta really mend this because like I don't know what is going on because it's just like everything is just put on pause, for our relationship or everything. It was kind of just like a good segment, and at that time people were being petty. I was being petty. I was going back and forth. I don't think that's and it was kind of just like just seeing that like I said, putting that mask on when really you're still hurting inside. And I was trying to just find closure in the relationship and closure in that. So we met up again and just kind of talked about everything. And then kind of just went our separate ways after that. and just kind of like just discussing like just what happened over the course of our relationship. So
Okay, cool. And I know like people have different responses to being cheated on and stuff. Like, do you feel like that experience affected your self-worth or your self-esteem?
yeah, definitely. I think I didn't know what my self-worth was. Especially, as far as what I've brought to the table. And I think during that time period too, kind of just thinking about like who am I as a person, like why would somebody do this to me? How could they do this and like who am I? I didn't know that. And I struggled with that after the breakup, after, we kind of talked about everything, and after it's just kind of just like this spiral of going through that period. I didn't know what my self-worth was, but I think it was just kind of just like knowing that you're in a storm and knowing that you're in the middle of the storm, but knowing that God is a companion with you in the storm for you to be, say, okay, I need help. And I think that's what I did. So
Yeah, thank you for speaking to that because I feel like I know the female side of these type of situations, but we don't always hear or talk about like the male perspective. So thank you for adding to that. And so from those experiences, I feel like there has definitely been some, I don't want to say like uphill, but like there evolution. There's been some evolution, like
yeah,
because I
yeah.
see like the person that you are today,
Mhm.
and it's amazing to watch. And I feel like you're very much just still getting started on the things that like God has called for you to do and like walking in purpose and just really like making moves. So it's really exciting to watch unfold. And so now you have Momo Mondays and Live Life to the Fullest. And do you want to talk about those really quick? Like
Yeah.
how did
So
you like how'd you get into those?
So a lot of people don't know this. So the reason why Momo Monday started, and I talked about it. It goes back to the breakup. It goes back to that relationship. It was kind of just therapy for myself. Uh, a lot of people, they say, okay, go to therapy or go talk to somebody. I was like, look, like I know somebody else is going through this, but I'm just going to put this out there. I'm going to say what's on my heart. I'm going to say what's on my mind because I think when people speak or when people have those different type of voices, a lot of people attach to them just because of what they're going through or their sound in their voice. So me speaking about, going through the breakup, me speaking about going through all this stuff, is just like a lot of people on my campus started to be like, bro, like I'm going through the exact same thing. I appreciate you talking about this. Or yeah, I really needed this today. This really helped me out. And it transpired from that to, doing it every Monday, which it was kind of like a thing. I was just like this is going to be every single Monday, but that's just who I am now. And I'm really grateful for it because now I'm able to turn, kind of like what worked for me, therapy for me, to help somebody else along their journey. And then, of course, I started building the brand, started actually being intentional about what I was doing instead of, kind of just being another copycat. I think that's where a lot of, in the early days of me doing my Momo Mondays, I was just saying the same thing over and over again, just a different way. Really, I had like a little bit of authenticity, but not fully. But now to be able to say, all right, I can turn on the camera, turn on the mic, and just go one full take, and just speak from my heart and speak, what God wants me to talk about. And I think along with that came my faith. I really didn't see, I think there's a big difference in my shift of my career of speaking, building this brand or building Momo Mondays, where it was, straight motivation to now talking about God. And you can see that it's like a day and night. It's unbelievable. It's like a day and night switch that came for me. So on that note, been building that, starting. I'm getting into about to do my podcast too coming up. So y'all stay tuned. And then also just also really big in clothes. Anytime I get money or something like that out when I was younger, bought clothes. So I was like, how can I take what I love doing, but then also clothes and bind it together? And now I got my merch out. So live life to the fullest. That's kind of like just a motto that I really want to iterate with people is that, when you live your life to the fullest, you're allowing God to come in and help you walk in your purpose, allow you to be who you're supposed to be, and actually, living your life to the fullest with it, experiencing your true purpose and experiencing what it means to embrace who you are. So
That's dope. I love it. And I also appreciate the transition in your content from like motivation to like now let's get some faith in there, because I've had that same transition myself. Like when I
mhm.
started, it was all like straight motivation, like hustle and grind type girl boss stuff.
Yeah.
And I think like I developed kind of a reputation for that. And I was just like, oh, but no, like that's not really what I mean.
Yeah.
Especially as I got more into my faith. And it's like, okay, but as a kingdom entrepreneur, like we do not subscribe to hustle and grind. Like, yes, there's work to be done, but we also got to make room for God to come in and help us out. And also with the whole like girl boss, this independent, like, okay, like, no, like, I definitely would like invite a man's leadership into my life. Like, don't get it twisted. So I had to like rebrand a little bit, quote unquote. And then even just because like people were like, oh, like that stuff that you're posting, it sounds good, but it's not biblical. And like that kind of hit me a little bit because I'm like, well, dang, like I definitely want to make sure that I'm like giving credit to Jesus Christ in what I'm doing. So I was like, all right, let me like think twice. And I don't know if people know this. Two things. First of all, like when we post motivational stuff, like, yeah, it is for that person who like is having a bad day and needs to pick me up. But sometimes it's also just as much like for us. Like we're speaking to ourselves.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I don't know if people know, I don't know if this is your process, but for me, like I definitely pray over my content like constantly. I'm like, God, like give me the words to say, like give me the creativity, give me the ideas. And like
Yeah.
that's because people like will message me and they're like, oh my gosh, like how are you so consistent? Like you always post on your story. Like how
Mhm.
how can you be so consistent? And I'm just like, I don't think you understand. Like I prayed for this.
Yeah. So I'm actually glad you said that because a lot of people are like, because I only missed probably about 2 or 3 Mondays, just because it was football and I was just and that was in the early days. So people ask me, it's like, do you record? Do you have any pre-recorded? And I was like, no, I can't.
Oh wow.
So that was just so it was like, oh, well, you do this every Monday, and I was like, yes, and I was just like, because it's not just about putting out content. It's not just about having this platform. It's about making an impact and not just being an influence, and having ways to affect somebody's life, but do it genuinely. And if I was like, okay, if I make a video Monday, I mean, if I make a video Sunday, then I can't post it Monday because it's not Momo Mondays. So, so
Yeah, thank you for saying that because I definitely was wondering. I'm like, does he batch record? And again, like I think that's just a testimony to God's goodness to be able to like give you a message, like something new every single week. That's yeah, that's it's not easy. I'm
no.
speaking from experience. I don't know if anybody listening has tried to make content regularly like that is definitely not easy.
Mhm.
And speaking of which, I would love to talk about faith a little bit because I'm always making space for conversations around faith.
Yeah.
And I have been like watching some of your journey from through the social media streets, and I think it's so dope. So, do you want to talk about like, I think you mentioned how those events that you went through like pushed you closer to God, but like, do you want to talk a little bit more in detail about what that looked like and what changes you made or what encounters you had that really made you like decide to be committed to God and your faith?
Yeah, so it's funny that you say encounter, because at here at my the church I go to, we have this thing called encounter, and it's like a 10-day session, or not 10 days, like a 10 yeah 10 sessions a day, and then it's like one like pre-session night before that. So it's really funny that you say that because when I was in, I want to say last year is kind of where I had my big kind of just like, all right, I'm going all for God. And that's where I kind of realized who I was because I didn't really grow up in the church. in the church home or nothing like that. My parents didn't really force that on us. They talked about God. They knew we all believed in God, but we didn't. I didn't have that relationship growing up with Him. So if I ever had an encounter with God, it was through somebody else. But now going to college and be able to stand on my own feet and experience what God really has in store for me. I started going to church. I think about 2 years ago, or it was, I forgot what year it was. It was either my junior year in the fall or going into my junior year in the spring. But I started going consistently, and I was like, okay, I knew there's going to be some type of change, And I think this is where we go back to look at the breakup. It's like, okay, there's a reason why God is preparing me for something, right? So we talked about him, dismissing that relationship that's not feeding to my soul, right? And now being able to look, okay, what is the reason why? And now I started going to church, and we had this thing called Encounter coming up. And basically, it was during spring ball. So as athletes, it's like, everything that you have going, like everything has to be on hold for your sport. And I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this because we got our spring game on Friday, and then we also have practice the next day. So it's like, okay, my practice said, cool. I want you to come on Thursday. I want you, it's just gonna be me, you, and the guy who brought me in. One of my best friends, actually, his birthday was yesterday, but we're gonna bring you in on Thursday. We're gonna do 2 sessions with you by yourself. And I was like, all right. So it was late. I probably just got off of work at like 9:30. And I had to go in. I was like, man, I don't know if I'm really want to go. I don't know if this is really gonna help. But when you think about when you encounter God, as God is going to pour himself into other people to pour into you, right? So and I had this quote that God would send his best soldiers to go save the people that need to be saved. But during that moment, on that Thursday night, this is before the spring game, they're praying over me and they're saying, okay, we're about to go through the sessions, the first 2 sessions. Before that, though, I want you to clear your mind. I want you to clear, turn your phone off. You don't have football, you don't have, nothing. It's just you and God at this moment. And, there's been a couple of times in my life where I heard God clearly, talking to me. That's like we're talking right now. And, I'm closing my eyes and, just praying over me. And I want you to imagine like this hand coming out and say, take my hand and allow me to, and do you trust me? Because I think that was a big thing. Going for the breakup, I didn't really have trust, a deep connection trust. I trusted people because I understand, people are genuine. Some people you just have to trust, but I didn't have that deep connection of trust that was in me, that trust that was broken in me. God said, take my hand and do you trust me? And so I took his hand and then it was up from there. So we went through that whole night and I felt just kind of just like an uplift and relief. And then the next day we had the spring game, but then, typical, college kids would go out party the next night. I had to go to bed because we had to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning to go to the next 10 sessions. So you think about, physically, you're tired, but then, spiritually, though, you just getting started and just getting started going into, what it means to have a real transformation, but a real encounter with God. So that whole day, we're going through the sessions and, I'm getting pictures. I'm very like a visual type of learner, but, and for some reason, my mind, I was getting all these different images of Jesus, of, God, of the Holy Spirit, and us just like going through a walk, us going through a journey. And it was very powerful because I was able to see, Jesus for the first time of who he was. I was able to, speak to the Holy Spirit and let the Holy Spirit come through me. And I was able to embody what it means to have God flow through me, So, and a testament to that is the next couple months, I go back to Encounter and I teach about inner healing. That was one of my speeches that I have. And I taught about inner healing and I taught about, forgiveness. And I think that's where my story kind of really took a uplift because I told people what I had to go through, the baggage that I was carrying, the weight that I was carrying, because, it's okay. You have to go through you get saved and you get baptized, but then you have to go through the work. you have to do the work, to keep it going. So I think teaching them how to do that and letting them go is like, this is the perfect place for me to teach people how to heal themselves, but then have God come in and heal you, and then let go of the baggage that you've been carrying. And then going through that, it's just been amazing. This past year, we had Saved by the Bell. Fast forward into this year, yeah, we had Saved by the Bell, and just seeing that come to life, that was just, just mind blowing. And it was crazy because I was reading Eric Thomas's book, and he was talking about how he was preaching at the clock tower, and we have a clock tower in the middle of our campus. So I was just like, maybe if I went to go do something, or maybe if I went to go, let's just say preach or something like at the clock tower, that this would be something, that I'd be able to, share. Little did I know that God was about to put something, he had something else in mind. And I told it to my God that brought me in. I was like, look, like, what if we did something called like Saved by the Bell? We had a worship night because Maverick City was going crazy at that time, with the I Thank God video. And I was sitting like, man, like, what if we did something like that? So we planted that seed in June, and then we went all the way up to September, where we're kind of like, figuring out, are we really gonna do this? And then we had said, okay, you know what? We need this because it's not just us that are, saved, that we're all good. We need to go get the other people. Like I said, is that God was in his, his strongest soldiers to come rescue you. And I think at that point, it's like, okay, now it's going to impact the campus. So we had a worship night, and then we had 31 people get saved, and then about 24 people get baptized on a college campus that night. And it was kind of crazy because, my pastor asked me to MC the whole thing because, just me being a social media guy and, speaker, he's like, hey, I need you to MC. I was like, okay, great. And then we get to the end, and he calls up the worship team, I'm not the prayer team, and says, you know what, Momo, you're going to baptize everybody. And I was like, hold on, wait a minute. I was just like, I thought I was just praying over people, if they want to, they need to pray over. He was like, nope, go over there. So the tub wasn't in the tub that we brought wasn't in the whole thing at all. Like, it was just supposed to be a worship night, have people, if you want to get saved, we'll pray over you and you'll kind of get you connected. That wasn't in the script, the schedule at all. So when he brought out that tub and he told me that, I was like, all right, let's see what happens. I don't know who's really gonna, nobody planned for this. Everybody in their street clothes. So, and it was kind of crazy. So one of the girls that, that's kind of in my small group, she came and she was the first one. And I was like, oh, wow. Like people are actually thinking about this. And she came and she got baptized, and then all of a sudden, a whole bunch of people just started lining up. I'm talking about, we had people from that I knew when I was my freshman year that were, partying with me, to now we're on the other side of it. I had, people on my football team. I had 6 guys on my football team get baptized. I had, just people of all ages that you can think of. And then what made it special is I'm also a Sunday school teacher. So I had one of my Sunday school kids, actually 2 of them, got baptized that night. So that was kind of just like really special to see. But that night was just amazing. So
That's huge. And that's amazing because in so many different ways, I've had like light bulbs like going off like, oh, like wow.
yeah,
Because well, wait, before I go into the light bulbs, I'm like, where does man get a tub from? Like
yeah.
that was just
they
what?
it's not like it's like the like your baptism type of tub. Like, we baptize people in like one of the tubs or something like that. It's like a little. It's not like I wouldn't say a tub. I don't know, like a container, but like it's like big enough for a person to be in there, if that makes sense. So,
But I'm just like, if that wasn't in the schedule, like this man was plotting on y'all, like he just let me just
well,
bring this just in case.
I was sitting there because I was sitting here like what is he saying? Like, did that just like cross my mind? You know what I'm saying? So it was just like he just told me to go baptize. I look over in the tub sitting right there. I was like,
You've been set up.
yeah,
I love that that happened because I think sometimes when you're like new to faith, which for me personally, like I got saved very young and I got baptized very young. But
Mm-hmm.
now as I'm like into adulthood, I see like different hesitations and excuses that people make. And I think, and even just like different, I don't, I guess I'll just say ideologies where some people think like, okay, like I've just got I just got saved. Let me ease on into this thing and I'll get baptized. I don't even know if it crosses your mind in the beginning or like I'll wait a couple months and then I'll think about it. But like in the Bible, we literally have an example of a man who literally has an encounter on a road and is like, I'll get baptized right now. Like, where's the water? Like,
Yeah.
we got water, like we're good to go. And literally gets like converted and baptized like back to back. And so I think it's a beautiful thing when that happens because that's not everybody's story, but it is such a very powerful one. And then also just hearing your story and your background in your faith walk, uh, just to see like how you have been able to let God use you because it's not you didn't have like years under your belt of like you didn't know all the big fancy words. You were not like the perfect saint, and yet God was still able to use you mightily. So that's really encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to say the word encounter because I feel like it's one thing to like quote unquote do the things like pray, read your Bible, listen to worship music. And I do believe that you can experience God through those things because uh it's kind of like the inevitable, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you can definitely do those things from a place of like habit or like this is just what I do. I'm just checking it off my list, getting it done. And your heart is not in that place to like really seek God. And so because of that, like I think it'll really minimize your experience. Whereas like if you were really intentional about like God, I want to know you more. I want to like see you in a new way. Like really going into those things intentional, like it's just different. But also like sometimes we're just out here minding our business and the Holy Spirit is like, nah, we have an appointment. And so I had to say encounter because encounters are very much real. And also, I'm happy that you touched on inner healing because that's something that's been on my heart for a few weeks now to talk more about. And slowly but surely, like God is bringing me the right people to have this conversation with. Like as you were talking, I just had this image of like a mirror, like a big tall mirror, and while you're doing that inner healing, it's like you're wiping what you can reach, but then like you get to that point where like you're on your tippy toes and you can't get to the top to clean up there, and that's where like God comes down. Is like I got you because I feel like society and like culture as such, I don't even know what they be teaching about healing, but I just know it's like a hot mess.
Oh my.
And this idea, I heard it said this weekend, like, and I'm kind of like mixing what I heard which with what I want to say, which is like you cannot heal yourself. Like if it
No.
worked like that, we wouldn't need God. And I love talking about inner healing because it's just I'm just like in love with the process. Like it's so amazing what happens when you have that internal change. So I really love that you brought that up, and I just really hope that more people will invite God into their healing journeys because like if you want guaranteed results, like invite God in. You can only do but so much yourself. You could like wipe off the outside a little bit to get like that deep change. Like you're gonna want God to partner with you on your journey. So I'm so happy you brought that up. Okay. So shifting gears a little bit, what does it look like for you to live life with no filter and just authentically be yourself?
Mm. So I think that's really good. I think when I think about that, especially being on a college campus, is that you stand out from everybody else. You stand out in ways that only a few people are able to see. Especially me, being who I am. And, I do a lot on my campus. So I'm a college, well, former athlete, resident advisor, um, physical education major, and then also, this entrepreneur, motivational speaker, all that wrapped into one. And a lot of people are just like you're just like all over the place. You're just like, if you would have had, I guess, you know, how they have like, you know, Mrs. whatever for their colleges, like you'll be like the Mister, you know, like, you know, but you know, I think about that because I think about how I stand out. Just I want to stand out from everybody else. I don't want to just be like everyone else. I think that's always been a thing in my life. When I look back, it's like I didn't. I was kind of like in the mix, but I didn't fit in necessarily just because I was different or just because I see a different road that everybody else is going. I'll take the other road. If I see a different path, if I see, you know, everybody else is in this room, I want to go to another room by myself. And not necessarily being by myself, but being surrounded by like-minded people, of course. But then also, you know, I think what comes with what God has in store for me and what God has in store, you know, wants me to do is I have to stand out from everybody else. I can't be like everyone else just because it's like you can't have an ordinary person with a God's gift, if that makes sense, you know. And God will give a gift
Yeah.
to some, or God, you know, everybody has a gift, but if you really tap into your gift and your purpose, is that God will separate you from everybody else.
That's so true. Like literally he will separate you. And I gotta be honest because I feel like growing up, like I did feel different. I did feel special. And then like people would tell me that. And then I think in the last couple years of my life, there's been like a lot of separation and from crowds and from groups for various reasons. And I think like those seasons of separation are definitely necessary in the process of becoming who God wants you to become. But at the same time, because even like biblically, we hear about people like going to the mountains, going into the deserts, like there's that separation period. But at the same time, I think that that separation can like mess with your head a little bit. And so
Yeah.
this weekend, I literally had to like repent because I have been so guilty of like thinking that I'm not special. And that's just like such a big lie. And so I had to repent because I like, yeah, I feel like when you're in a crowd, it's easy to say like, oh yeah, like I'm different. Like I see it. But when you're by yourself and there's like less people around, it's like, oh wait, am I different? And like God has definitely God didn't make us like average or like everybody else. And so I think when we have that like less than mentality or the mentality of like, yeah, like I'm just part of the crowd, it's like dishonoring him in a way because we're not like acknowledging that he did create us different and like he is such a big God, so big that like he's deposited special and like unique things in each one of us. So yeah, I had to apologize to God this weekend for that. But I love that. Thank you. I don't think anybody's ever talked about it that way. So
Mhm.
yes to being set apart and different. One thing that I was before we like wrap up, um, okay, so we are like in a Facebook group together with like our speaking coach, and I saw that you were posting some things and you had asked a question about like why is it important to live a full life rather than just settling? And also like are you just living or are you just existing? And I think those things really stood out to me because I've always been really big on like never settling, like don't settle. I've always been ambitious
Yeah.
and I don't think that you're just born with that. Like I think it comes from somewhere. So like can you talk a little bit more about like settling or not settling, living life to the fullest, existing versus living? Like where does that motivation come from for you? From for you. I'm gonna stop talking and let you talk.
So I think I hear the first part about settling. I think just overall, just my life experiences and being, you know, who I am. I think I couldn't just settle for the life that was kind of handed to me in a sense because you know I come from a background where my mom was from, you know, Kentucky and my dad was from Africa and they both met in LA. It's like, all right, we got three boys, we got to move, and knowing that they did all that sacrifices, that I can't just settle for the life that they gave me, I have to kind of like repay them, or kind of like, pave the way for my kids one day. And I think about, just you can't settle in life if everything is going great for you. I don't like to be in the place for too long. I like to, upskill. I know when God keeps me there, though, He's gonna keep me there. He's gonna keep me there. But also, is I don't like to just feel like, this is just my capstone. Like this is all that I can do. I don't. I like to feel like I feel like I can achieve anything I put my mind to. I feel like I'm able to, if God gives me a vision or a dream or an aspiration, is that knowing that I'm able to complete that, or I'm able to, take on that task that He has for me. And that goes back to, living your life to the fullest. It's like, if you really think about your true potential, when you think about living your life, are you living it to the fullest? Because are you just existing to live, or are you living and existing at the same time? Well, no, I didn't say that right. Are you living? Are you just existing to live, right? Or are you living to exist? And thinking about wanting to be more than just who you are. Thinking about being more than just a person on this earth, and actually walking in purpose. Living out your purpose, but then also living your life to the fullest. I think about that every single morning I wake up, because when I wake up, I know it's like, well, there's some reason why God woke me up today, because if He didn't, then I'll be up there with Him. But there's some reason that the job is not done, or you still have work to do. And it's crazy because when I think about that, I think about the Kobe. I don't know, you probably know about the Kobe interview, and he's like, "Oh, well, you're up 2-0 against in the finals," and he's like, "The job's not done." Like, not saying there's no reason to celebrate, but I think about that too as my life is just like if I'm gonna live my life to the fullest, and knowing that I'm waking up every single day, is that knowing the job is not done what God has me to do. So
That's good. Yeah, I definitely wanted to touch on that because, like I said in the beginning, like Get Up 10 is definitely about resilience. It's definitely about authenticity. But the other aspect that I really love to like promote is ambition, like a
mhm.
healthy ambition, like a healthy, let's like dream bigger. Let's do more. Like, yes, like God has more for you and you're capable of more. Like, I think we don't even realize what we're capable of until
We actually
until
do it.
it's like, yeah, until it's that time, it's that moment. Even for myself personally, like, especially over, I guess I could say like my 20s, honestly, like
Mhm.
there was just certain things that I didn't even know was possible because I had to like hear it from somebody else or see it from somebody else. And I think that's the power of like getting into the room or like connecting with like-minded individuals. I think like-minded in quotes because yes, like-minded, but like people who are ahead of you really is what I mean. Cause they'll like drop ideas and seeds that you didn't even like
You think
think of.
about.
Yeah. And so I always want to encourage people to like my in high school, like the quote that I put in the yearbook was reach for the stars. So if you fall, you land on a cloud. Cause I just always believe like there's always more. So thank you for that. All right. Well, I'm done with all the serious questions. I have like 3 questions for fun. So I really love to travel. I haven't been able to travel lately like I wanted to this year, but like
Mhm.
I don't know, like traveling is very like healing for me and I love to go new places. So that being said, like if you could travel anywhere, where would you go?
So there's a people always so when people ask me that question as a kid, I'll answer I want to go to the moon. Just because it's like you don't like how many people that has been to the moon or traveled to the moon. Of course, I gotta get a realistic answer, but I think about I don't know. I think I gotta get out the country. Um, I think America is great, but I think just going to somewhere overseas. I think Taiwan.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I was not
I,
expecting
I,
that answer.
I mind. Yeah, I mean it's very because you think about the culture over there, and they say they people over there live a lot longer than people in the United States, and just
Yeah.
seeing like like why though, their peace, what they eat, what's going on there every day. They don't have all these, different distractions or all these different, things going on. And no diss to America, but like we're living in a world right now, in the country right now, we're kind of like just lost in a sense sometimes. And I think we have a lot of, just distractions and a lot of just, things that we kind of cater to instead of catering to something else that's productive and, for us. But I
Yeah.
think, being just able to see that on the other side.
Okay, I hear that. It's interesting because like I grew up watching The Amazing Race with my family, and I don't know if you ever watched that before. Have you?
You said amazing.
The Amazing Race.
Mm-mm.
Okay, well basically it's like a competition and they start off with like it's like
Oh,
teams of two.
and then they gotta travel around somewhere, like travel around
Yeah,
like
and they have to like yeah, and they like do all these tasks and like it's like a team gets eliminated like if they don't they're like last.
yeah.
Anyway, so they just brought that back a couple years ago and my sister and I, that's like our show, like we watch it together. And last week they were like in Slovenia or something, and one of the challenges was like they had to like put hay on this rack like the farmers do there. And I was
Oh,
like, how crazy is it, like the fact that that's like literally somebody's life. Like they get up, they put on their like simple clothes, plaid shirt, and then like go out with the hat, and they
that,
just like in the hay with the animals, and like they live in a small town, and like that's their reality, like that's their life. And I'm like, part of me is like, God, like why you ain't choose me for that life? It's
oh,
so much simpler. But I also know that like, I'm here for such a time as this, like where I'm from, who my parents are, what city I'm in, like it's all very much intentional. But I'm just sometimes I wonder, like, God, why you didn't create me for that simple life? And
uh,
also, I feel like I'm very big on like your first answer or your initial answer is like that's where your heart's at. And so I just feel like in our lifetime, like you might be able to go to the moon. Like in a couple years, you probably, I'm just gonna speak wealth over your life. You might be able to like drop a couple stacks and go to the moon. Like that doesn't in this day and age, like it's not even unrealistic anymore. So maybe you were saying that as a boy for a reason. I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
oh man, my childhood dream for you.
Yeah. Okay, so I also like to share uh so a song, and it could either be like something, the kind of like something you consider to be an anthem, or like something that you just listened to like recently that you have like on repeat because it's really speaking to you in this season. Either or.
Hold on, let me pull up my Apple Music.
Okay.
But so I'm a big Rod Waves fan. Uh, I can't.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people say, oh, you just listen to your heartbreak music, stuff like that. Yeah, and I went through that phase. But then there are also songs that's kind of like spoke to me over the years and over just me being who I am and knowing that wherever comes in my life, uh, wherever comes for me is that I know that it's going to be the best for me. And then he made this song. I think it's on his last album. Can I find it? But it was called I think it's called Yungen, and it's called like Yungen out the city, or the Yungen out the city, or something like that. And it really spoke to me because it was like wherever I go, and I think it was right after the event that we went to in Atlanta for the mastermind, and I was kind of just seeing like my dreams can come true, and my dreams are actually for me, and kind of just hearing his voice and him saying that's like this fits. But another one is called "Living Life" by Joyce, and that's where I kind of got live life to the fullest. That two aspects from it. So those two songs really hit close to me, just because I know, you know, they said it was kind of like in that dark period that I had. It was he said these days um, I'm surrounded by a whole bunch of darkness, but then um, I'm gonna live it to the fullest or something like that. So living to the fullest, even when he's surrounded by all this chaos. That's what I got from it. So
Okay, nice. And then the last thing, which I like hate to ask this to a college student because I don't know about you, but for me personally, like after college was done, I'm like, yeah, I'm good on reading. I've read enough. But I'm gonna ask you for a book recommendation. So it could be either something that you're like reading right now that is really good, or something that you have read um like in the past that like was really a game changer for you.
I think in the past that I've read, and it was kind of just like each time you read it is you get something different from it because you go through life experiences. Was Eric Thomas's UOU. I think that was like my first, and it was kind of crazy because like that was like my first book that I actually like purchased, for myself that I didn't have to purchase for a class or didn't have to, uh, read outside of, school and stuff like that. But actually just reading that and kind of just like dissecting each page, each story that he told, each thing. And it's kind of just like wow, like this guy, he tells about his story, when he was homeless, but then also okay now that he's got on his feet, but what was his mindset through all that, and the reason why he thought, it's kind of amazing to pick his brain without even meeting him. I'm gonna meet him one day, of course. that's on my list, but I think it's really when you think about a book, and you think about the author, really try to pick their brain of what they're really going through. And I think, it kind of gives me, because I'm writing a book too, for college students and college athletes, but then also it's just like, when people read it, I want them to be able to pick my brain on what I'm going through without me having to tell them verbatim, okay, this is what I'm thinking, and I think that's exactly what, if you think about it from that perspective, when you read that book, it's just like, wow, like this is the reason why he had this relationship, or this is the reason why he thought like this, or this is the reason why, he is who he is because of everything in that book. So
That's dope. I actually have that book. I'm like looking at it.
yeah,
It's funny, like,
I have it right here actually too. So
yeah, it's like literally right next to me. Yeah, so last week I spoke with Coach Rocky and like she recommended a book that I have, and now you recommended a book that I have too. So I don't know. I'm feeling like maybe God is telling me that I need to step away and do some reading to like close out this year. Because I've had the book for a couple of years now, but like
mhm.
I actually never finished it. So yeah, maybe I need to open it up. And I have met Eric Thomas and I've been to like a few of his events and just
Yeah,
so amazing. Like, yeah,
yeah,
always will speak that like I can literally say that man changed my life. So always love talking about ET and always recommending him to people, especially who need like motivation or encouragement. Speaking of which, do you have any like last words that you would like to leave our audience with?
last words, I'll say this. I'll say find out who you are, and once you find out who you are, uh thrive in who you're supposed to be. And when you continue to thrive in who you're supposed to be, allow God to guide you on where you need to be.
I'm just gonna be that girl and be like, speaking of thriving, by the time this episode comes out, hopefully my book Thrive will be out. But
Oh yeah.
anyway, thank you so much for this time. I really enjoyed this conversation, just getting to hear more of your experience and just some of the amazing things that are like literally in progress for you. While we were in Atlanta together, like I just watched how people like spoke to you and like prayed over you, and it's like undeniable that God has like great things in store for you and wants to do great things through your life. So hopefully I'll be able to like, even if it's through the social media streets, just watch you like really
Yeah.
just like flourish and like step into that man that he's called you to be, because I just feel like you're really going to impact so many lives. And so I'm really excited for everything that he's doing in and through you. And if anybody needs encouragement, definitely tap in to his social media, which will be in the show notes. Get that Momo Monday motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Well, I thank you for having me. It was a blessing to be here. I loved every part of it. You keep doing what you're doing, though. I just want to give you kudos too, as well. I seen you, especially from that point that you got on stage, and I remember you say like you were nervous or you didn't think you were going to speak, and to now seeing you just blossom and the person that you are, I know the sky's the limit, and I know God's going to do great things in your life, and He's already doing great things. But in 2024, he's going to be doing some. He's going to be like. So I just want you to know
Thank
that. So
you. Thank
yes,
you. And I believe that for 2024 is going to be an amazing year. So, and I'm
yes,
speaking that over whoever's listening, like 2024, get ready. It's going to be an
yeah.
amazing year. Thank you.